How's it going, guys? I'm Theo Joe, and today I'm going to give you some first impressions on the iPhone 11 Pro after using it pretty heavily for about a day now. So yes, these are first impressions, truly, but there are a lot of things I did notice and a lot I have to say about it. So obviously this won't be a full review, that'll come in about 2 weeks or so, but I still think this is worthwhile to watch. First up, as for the general design, not a lot to say here, but some small stuff to mention. I do like the matte back. It's a lot less likely to get fingerprints, I think, so that's always nice. As for the weight, apparently it's a little bit heavier than the previous version. I have the XS that I'm coming from. I don't notice it really at all. It's not going to be a problem in any way. And then also, of course, the other design change is the triple camera setup. Yes, it looks kind of goofy, but I'm never going to be looking at the back of the phone and looking at the camera and inspecting it ever, so I don't care about that. It's whatever. All right, next up, having to do with battery life. I'm pleased to say this seemed to have a lot better battery life. It seems to have pretty great battery life for two reasons, I believe. In Apple's announcement, they talked about how their processor is more efficient because they have, I don't know, some special new cores in there, and also they increased the battery size significantly as well. So the iPhone 11 Pro apparently now has a 3046 milliamp hour battery, whereas the XS only had a 2658 milliamp hour battery. So that's like 400 extra milliamp hours in combination with the more efficient processor. And I was really heavily using it for the first day. After about 6 hours of screen on time, it went from 98% down to 20%, and it was only plugged in for maybe like 30 minutes or so to restore the backup from my old phone to the new one. And after that, I was using it pretty much all day heavily for streaming YouTube videos a lot, which obviously uses a ton of battery, and like Instagram, just looking at the phone is probably about at medium screen brightness the whole time. So 6 hours of screen on time and only dropping down to 20%. I definitely would not have been able to do anything close to that on my previous XS phone, 10S, although I will say that my previous 10S phone was at about 90% battery capacity, so that probably had something to do with it, but I'm sure obviously the bigger battery was too. So yes, there is a clear noticeable difference in battery life, which I'm super happy about. Now, in a future video, I do plan on doing a video where I test the battery life of my old phone before and after doing a battery swap at the Apple Store. So I want to see if that 10% in decrease in battery capacity makes that big of a difference. So be sure to watch out for that on my channel maybe in the next few weeks or so. All right, now the next big change has to do with the camera. Of course, this is one of the major updates, and I do have to say that I do like the fact that there are 3 options. I didn't really think I would necessarily use the ultra wide camera that often. I like being able to zoom into things, but now that I can see it in the interface, I could see when, okay, this might be useful. I'll probably end up using it, so that's cool. Another cool new feature is called Quick Take. So now when you're in photo mode, even if you hold down the shutter, it'll actually start recording a video instead of doing a burst shot. So you can start taking a video that way, which is a lot easier than trying to fumble through it, finding which direction you want to switch to if you have to quickly take a video. And then you can either lock the video to keep recording, just put it permanently into video mode by swiping right after holding it down, or you can actually keep doing a burst mode like you could before by holding it down and swiping to the left, and that'll do it like it did before. However, the most exciting feature in my opinion about the camera is the new night mode, which allows you to take photos in very, very dark situations. This is a feature that has been on Pixel phones that I was a huge fan of, because everyone knows most smartphones these days can take really great pictures in ideal light, you know, out in the sun, but when it really comes down to it, low light capabilities are the big deal. So how it works is if it is in a darker situation, a little night mode button will pop up that you can press, and then it'll initiate night mode if it's not super dark. Or if it is a very dark situation, I think it'll automatically enable it by default, so you just press it and it by default does the night mode. Now, there is no way to enable it manually, so if you're in a very bright situation, there's no way you can force it to do night mode. Maybe they'll add that in update. Though I did do a quick extreme test comparing the new iPhone 11 Pro night mode to the Pixel 3a night mode, so I'll call this the Darkroom Test. Basically, I just shut the door to the bathroom, and the only light coming in was from the adjacent room, so this was a very, very dark room. It's extreme situation. You would never try and take a photo in this case, but I think that's a fun test. So with the iPhone, I just had the default exposure for night mode at 3 seconds, which is what it comes up when you enable it. And then the Pixel 3a, I just did the default auto exposure, so I didn't try to make it brighter or anything like that. And I have to say, the iPhone picture looks better than the 3A, like significantly so. And then in the same situation, I tried with the Pixel 3A to increase the brightness manually, so I didn't do the default exposure, so it was night mode plus increased brightness. That did improve it a little bit, but still the iPhone clearly wins here. It's much brighter, much sharper, so I'm really happy with that. I then did what I guess you could call a pitch black test, where I turned off all the lights in the adjacent room, closed the window, so really this room was almost having no light let in at all, and this was extreme. And obviously both cameras really struggled, and I could not really see anything at all myself, like I could barely see my own hand in front of me, but with the iPhone, you had the advantage of allowing a longer exposure in night mode. It lets you do up to 10 seconds, so that did improve it somewhat. In this case, where there's almost no light, it pretty much makes it look like it was just a very dark room, where in reality, it was almost no light at all, which is awesome. And again, I want to point out, this is not a realistic situation. This is not any type of room you would ever be taking pictures of. So don't say, oh, well, the iPhone night mode is better, because if there's actually a usable amount of light, then it's possible that the Pixel will be able to take advantage of it and make it process better. But when the Pixel 4 does come out, I will be very interested to see how it compares with the iPhone 11. So I'll try to get my hands on a Pixel 4, and then we'll do a fun camera comparison, specifically with night mode especially. All right, now the final thing I want to talk about is the screen, specifically the brightness. So coming from the XS to the Pro, you can definitely notice there is a slight increase in brightness. So when you're inside, this is not going to be a big deal, but I think if you are using your phone for navigation in the car, it's super bright out, this will make it a lot easier to see. That's usually when the brightness comes in handy. So I did do a quick test with my light meter. So I just put a white square on the screen. So with the 11 Pro, it was showing 970 lux, and the XS was at 900 lux. And this is not nits. This is a different measurement than nits, so don't think it's equivalent, but clearly in this situation, the 11 Pro is brighter. And another thing I'd point out is I had to turn off the auto brightness in the settings, because for some reason, even if you put the brightness on max in the control panel, if you have auto brightness on, it might not go to the screen's maximum capability. And when auto brightness was on in both phones, the 11 Pro was actually darker than the XS, which is very strange. So at least when you turn off auto brightness, the full capabilities come out, and the 11 Pro is definitely brighter. All right, now there is one thing that I was not really happy about with this phone, and that is they removed 3D touch. I'm a big fan of that. It made it a lot easier to do some different actions when you just press in hard. However, that being said, from what I understand, one of the reasons they were able to improve the battery capacity so much is because they removed 3D touch, so it was able to, fit more battery in there. So I guess if that is the trade-off, I'm not too upset about it. I would probably rather have the bigger battery than the 3D touch, which I use occasionally, and that's probably what they figured most people would prefer. All right, so that's mostly what I have to say there. Again, the full review, I'll try to get it to come out in maybe like 2 weeks or so. And again, with the Pixel 4 coming out, I'll try to get my hands on that, and we could do maybe some comparisons, especially with the camera. Should be pretty fun. Now, if you want to keep watching, another video I made recently, which I would definitely recommend, is one talking about a secret shipping method that you probably have never heard of before, but has been around for a long time. So I'll recommend that video. You can just have it click on the pop-up right there. Should be pretty interesting. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.